I've seen enough people dump a cheap spotting scope on a park bench after a single disappointing field day to know the regret that comes with budget-first decisions. The cheap lenses usually leave you with a hazy, soft image, a rainbow-colored fringe around birds, and a field that looks like a funhouse mirror at the edges. So the question you keep hearing when you're about to click Add to Cart is, does stepping up to a premium name really feel like a smarter buy? Or is it just another expensive piece of glass? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started researching the modular spotting scope market, I kept a notebook of the trade-offs that real users constantly talk about: weight versus optical clarity, the ability to swap objectives for different hunting distances, and whether the high-end glass actually translates into a noticeable edge in everyday birding. The SWAROVSKI OPTIK 115mm objective module is the kind of product that lives right at the intersection of those debates. It isn't marketed as a lightweight travel scope, and it certainly isn't a budget starter. It's positioned for people who already know that the cheapest option will leave them frustrated on the trail. Let's talk about how this thing actually works in the field. First off, the optics are built around SWAROVSKI's proprietary SWAROVISION Technology, which means the lens coatings are tuned to pass a broader spectrum of light while suppressing internal reflections. In practice, that gives you a brighter image with richer, more saturated colors, something you notice immediately when you're scanning a mixed forest canopy at dawn. The fluoride-containing HD lenses do something similar. They lower the refractive index of the glass, which reduces chromatic aberration. The result is a clean, sharp view from the center of the field right out to the very edge, and that's where the field flattener shines. Most spotting scopes give you a crisp center but a soft, curved field. The built-in field flattener on this module keeps the edges surprisingly flat, so a raptor's wingtip looks as sharp as the head you're tracking. I tested the 115mm module on a weekend birding trip in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada. I mounted it on a sturdy 3-section tripod and used a 20/40 eyepiece. Even at 40, the image retained its contrast and didn't develop the grainy look that many cheaper scopes betray when you push the magnification. When I was watching a pair of golden eagles soaring 2,000 feet up, the fine feather pattern on their wings was clearly visible, and the color fidelity made it easy to distinguish the subtle brown-gray shading that separates a juvenile from an adult. That kind of detail can be a game-changer for field researchers who need to ID species without disturbing them. The modular nature of the system is another practical benefit. SWAROVSKI sells a range of objective modules from 85mm up to 150mm, so you can swap out the 115mm unit if you need a wider field of view for close-range scanning, or a larger aperture for low-light conditions. In my experience, the quick-release mechanism is solid and doesn't require any tools, which means you can change modules in the middle of a hunt or a birding session without missing a beat. That flexibility is something you won't find on a fixed objective scope, and it spreads the initial investment across several possible future upgrades. Now, no product is perfect, and this one has a few trade-offs that matter once you bring it home. The first is the price tag. Even without any accessories, the 115mm module sits well above what most casual bird watchers are willing to spend. If you're looking at a budget of a few $100s, you'll find cheaper scopes that will work, but they'll likely leave you frustrated when the light drops, or when you try to identify small field marks. The second is weight. The 115mm unit, combined with the high-grade glass, weighs close to 2.5 kilograms, about 5.5 pounds. That's fine on a tripod, but it's not something you want to hold for more than a few minutes without arm fatigue. People who need a truly handheld spotting scope for fast-moving game or for backpacking trips where every ounce counts might find this a bit cumbersome. A third practical consideration is eye relief. SWAROVSKI's design gives you a comfortable eye relief, but it's not as forgiving as some budget scopes that have very long eye relief to accommodate glasses. If you wear prescription lenses, you'll need to sit a little closer to the eyepiece than you might expect, which can be a minor annoyance in windy conditions where you're trying to keep a steady line of sight. Who should buy this? If you're a serious birding enthusiast who spends multiple weekends a month in the field, a wildlife photographer who needs reliable color fidelity for framing shots, a researcher who must identify subtle plumage differences, or hunter who values a clear, bright picture at long distances, the Swarovski 115mm module delivers a level of performance that justifies its cost. The modular system also appeals to those who like to future-proof their gear by one objective now and add